Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Every once in a while, we have to bring out the big dog.
Yeah.
Oh, God help us. It's time for Danny Unleashed. Sponsored by Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. Go to eastonroofing.com for more.
Second half of the program begins right now. Astros, to the joy
You bet.
of one Danny Clinkscale, leading 2-0 in Yankee Stadium. Game 3. They're all tied up, one game apiece. We'll keep an eye on that. Danny Clinkscale brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing, commercial and residential roofing, project manager on every site. 4 straight years, voted Best of Houses and Angie's List Super Service Award winner. You can check out their incredible Google reviews online. They're even happy to do repairs. Customer service focused, Easton Roofing. No payment collected until you're 100% satisfied. They're happy to take credit cards and PayPal as well. Call 913-257-5426 to talk to Joe and Sam and the team there at Easton Roofing. Find them online at eastonroofing.com. Easton Roofing, integrity matters. Danny Clinkscale from DannyClinkscale.com joins us in studio. You're Natalie attired. You said busy day today, huh?
Yeah, I had many meetings. In fact, I was over in the area of Easton Roofing's offices, and I was going to go see Sam and say hello, but I didn't have time. So
You're just so popular, Danny.
I was racing from one thing to the next.
Well, that's impressive.
Well, it could have been a tad bit more productive, but it was impressive nonetheless.
With the Dodgers out of the way, do your Astros steamroll to the World Series, or do the Nationals, who certainly seem like they're going to be the one looming, up 3-0? Only one team has ever crapped said bed up 3-0. It's the Yankees.
When it happened, I was mighty happy that the Dodgers had lost. But I think that the Nats have gotten so much momentum, and their 3 starting pitchers are throwing so well that I think they're dangerous for anyone.
Yeah.
And they have good pros across the board. They have a lot of veteran players who haven't won a championship, who will be highly motivated. Did Howie Kendrick win one back in the day with the Angels? Was he playing yet then?
No. When the Angels won?
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord. When they were well, that was light years ago.
Yeah, that was almost 20 years ago, yeah. So maybe it was 20 years ago.
02.
02, yeah.
02, okay.
17 years
17.
ago.
They
God, I guess he could have been. He wasn't on that team.
06 was his first year.
Okay.
There, so no, not quite.
So they have some guys like that, Adam Eaton, people like that, who haven't won and are great pros, and I think will be incredible. Not that you're not going to be
Ryan
motivated if you're in
Zimmerman.
the World Series, but just guys who are all in. They decided to spend their money on bench pieces who are veterans and who had a great clubhouse presence, and I think it was a wise thing for them to do. And so I do think they're dangerous.
So one of the topics I had that I didn't get to, I touched on a little bit there with Jason Stark, who we had to talk to this morning because of the Yankees-Astros. They let Bryce Harper go, and $30 million instead of Bryce Harper, they added Patrick Corbin for $15 million, Anibal Sanchez for $8, and Yan Gomes for $7. The exact same 30 that Bryce Harper is making with the Phillies. They paid those 3 guys. Who would you rather have?
Well, I still think it'll probably be a good deal for the Phillies, but I think it turns out to be a wise thing for the Nats. They're trying to win now. This Strasburg's 30. Not that that's ancient. Scherzer's what, 36?
34.
34.
I'm going to win 400 games.
No, probably not.
I'm counting on
it. Your hopes rise and fall right now with Verlander.
Nah, Greinke. He's just weird enough to pitch till he's 50.
Yeah, but is he good enough?
Yes.
I think he's good. He strikes me now, not before. Now he strikes me as a guy who's going to make his meal against bad teams. I think he's not a great enough pitcher anymore to beat good teams.
I think that's fair. I mean, I think that's true of
and
a lot of guys.
And that doesn't mean...
I think that's almost everybody. See Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, a lot of the Cy Young numbers are piled up against 7, 8, 9 hitters and Sunday getaway day lineups.
Nobody has a 2 ERA against the.
It's best
but I think
against best.
But I think when you see the best against the best in the postseason, the pitchers generally, the best pitchers are generally the ones who deal, and they're the ones who are getting the upper hand. I mean, Garrett Cole's not struggling here in the postseason.
No, I agree.
And now Judge will probably take him out right as I speak right now.
I'm not arguing with you in any way, shape, or form. I think Zack Greinke is not your number one guy in the postseason. By the way, Cole dancing around trouble, though. Bases loaded in the first, 2 on in the second. He gets out of that one as well. 2-0 Astros after 2.
How about bases loaded in the first and 2 on in the second, and he's only thrown 30 pitches. That's pretty amazing.
What is he hitting everybody?
That is kind of, yeah.
What is he? I didn't see what's the hit total. Is he giving up hits or walks or what?
Hits.
First pitch swinging.
Yeah, and he can go strike 1, strike 2, strike 3 on just about anybody.
No, but I think you're valid. I mean, I think he's definitively the third best pitcher on that staff, and I think that's kind of true.
And I think he's still capable of going out and giving you 6+ against a good team.
Yeah, I think he's more.
He can really dot it. He can still really dot it.
He's more James Shields than he is Max Scherzer.
But when he misses, it's danger, especially in this day and age. The ball's going to go over the wall.
And he's always been willing to. He always pitches in the strike zone, and he pitches up. And I think if somebody guesses or if somebody locks into him, that ball's going to go a long way. It's always gone a long way on him. He's never not given up the home runs. But I think sign me up for him as my number 3.
Agreed.
The only team that might match him is the Nationals, and the Astros have the way better bullpen and the better lineup.
I'm just saying I don't think he's got 19-4 left in him, and he kind of probably needs a couple of those.
What did he do this year, Curtis?
15-6, I think. Something like that. He won 15, I believe. Pretty sure it was 15.
He's at 205 career wins, I think. So,
yeah, he's got to go. But you're right. He's the way.
All I need is 6 years.
The way he's pitching now.
18-5.
Oh, 18-5.
10-4 with Arizona. 8.
There you go. He doesn't have 18-5. No, I said 19 to save my ass. I said 19.
18-5 and a 2.93.
Yeah. So, but I mean, he
sucks.
He's super precise right now.
Couldn't pitch for this squad.
No, I'm glad he's on my squad. I'm just glad he's not my number 1.
Dude, he is now
30 walks and 33 starts this year.
Powered by, the full 10 years of service time and the hundreds of millions of dollars.
What does he do with it?
He is just even more. Did you hear the press conference?
I heard it.
1 minute and 51 seconds.
My favorite line was asked about the Yankees. Good.
Can I
good
figure
hitters.
out a way to tell that story?
Good hitters
about
are harder to get out than not as good hitters.
Can I figure out? I think I can figure out a way to tell that story I told you about Greinke's locker room speech. Didn't I tell you? I told you that.
Tread lightly, Danny.
I think I can say that.
I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember the speech. Start the story, and I'll shut it down.
Right.
The Dodgers, when he was with the Dodgers, and they were having some struggles, and they called a team meeting. And so in said team meeting, they're all getting up and clearing the air, maybe some guys a little fire and brimstone. And about 5 guys in, Greinke stands up. And everybody looks at each other and like,
oh, God, Zach's going to talk.
Oh, my God, Zach's going to talk.
It's almost like Forrest Gump at the end of the run turning around.
He's going to say something.
This must be great because this guy doesn't speak.
And so he gets up and he looks around and he says, I see you guys going into the bathroom back there, and you're taking a dump and you're not cleaning yourself, and I think it's disgusting.
And that was it.
That was it. And that was it. He sits down, and everybody's looking around like, well then, all righty, super.
Anything else?
Anything else to fire us up, Zach?
Because I got to go take a
growler. Anyway.
That's right.
By the way, I got his back. I totally got his back. Too.
I'm with him there. I agree with him.
8 years ago, there was an employee here who came out of the stall and did not wash their hands and left. And I have not touched the doorknob of the restroom in this building without a paper towel since. It is toxic, that doorknob.
I will
as far
notice
as
the
I'm concerned.
shoes.
I think
And
Greinke
if I
was
find
saying-
something
Do
odd,
I
will-
not
Yes,
come walking out of there with the
absolutely.
paper towel then rolled up and
But I will notice the shoes, and when they're doing something, and I'll all right, walk around the office till you find those. Oh, that's who it is. Okay, marked.
I'm no, but this came out of the. I was not at. I was at the urinal. This wasn't somebody who skipped it after the
I see.
urinal.
Oh my, yeah.
This is there was a study once done that they put a hidden camera in a men's bathroom, and the percentage of people who washed their hands was about 3 times less when there was nobody there. I mean, it was like 22%. If nobody was there, they're just like, I don't. And if somebody else was there, the percentage rose to like 81. So they just were doing it for the sake of the other person, an embarrassment.
That's what I think of when we had like an eeny meeny, like not brushing your teeth or not washing your hands. Like I can't go without either.
Oh, I don't even know. This is a little different than most, but I don't know how people just go out for the day without taking a shower. That doesn't resonate. Now I'll get up and do, say, college game day after working out and come in here in gym clothes and then go home and eventually take a shower. I'll do that. But somebody who goes a full, I'm not showering today. I'm like, I don't get that.
So how'd you make it through your European trip?
What do you mean?
Nobody over there showers.
Well, there was a shower in every place I
No,
was.
you did. But what about those around you? Did that not bother you?
We were generally outside, and I think that's overdone too. I think there's people who don't shower, but the world has grown a bit. The idea that it's what's the name that you always use? Soapy
Stinky McSmells a lot.
Stinky McSmells a lot.
Smoky McStinks, Stinky McSmokes a lot.
Yeah.
Now I have ridden up an elevator.
Who's going to go high in the second round again this year in the NBA draft?
Always.
I did ride an elevator up with who was the former Rockets forward. He had long, straight black hair, parted in the middle. He was European.
Luis Scola?
Luis Scola. I rode up in an elevator with Luis Scola once, and it was ripe. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
And he also was the same thing. It was body odor plus cigarettes.
Yeah.
Which was really nice. I think it was about 13 floors worth too. So you're like, boy, Luis, why? He's got the penthouse suite. I'm on the 13th, so I got to go 13 with him. This ain't good.
By the way, the confirmation is firing in. I never touch a bathroom handle. Just trust
People
me.
are weighing in now.
Yes,
Yep.
I'm 100% in agreement. At Soren
Bruce.
Petro. Listen, you're not going to get any argument. I think we should all. You
especially around
should
here.
agree. You should not have to respond to me.
Around
it
here,
should
I
just
mean, there
be
are
a
some
given.
there are some crimes against humanity committed in that stall in there, and then not dealt with.
Yes.
And you got to look at. You're like, how,
How did that happen?
how, and why?
I don't know, man.
And the answer is I just have an odd, I would say,
Diet.
metabolism. I can't help it, Danny. Oh, it wouldn't me. I haven't been in there yet today.
I will tell you that, the press area out at Arrowhead, it was not designed to be there. We were designed to actually go up into the theater and hold the coaches' press conference, as opposed to, I've tweeted out a couple of times how crammed in everybody is in the little area. So they didn't plan on people being there. They planned on people using the lobby bathroom. Well, now you can't. I mean, you can get there, but they actually had to go back and put a bathroom in. But it's for everybody.
Oh boy!
And oh my, I had to go to the PR department and go like, listen, you got to walk me back to the employee part, because they won't let you go back in the other areas without somebody there. I said, somebody's taking me to the bathroom. I'm not going in there.
I'm
not
filing a
happening.
grievance.
It's like, you guys got to, and I know that's nice of you to build the bathroom. How about build a fan with it? Maybe even a flamethrower.
Yeah,
because that would have been necessary to clear that one out.
That's a pet peeve of mine. Even some truly fine luxury hotels will not have a fan in the bathroom, and you're like, come on. To the point where you're in there with your spouse. I've gone and used the lobby before, I'm like, I'm not leaving that kind of residue for my loved one. No way. Come on, just give me a fan.
So people don't smoke in their rooms, Danny.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I mean, there are ways to get around it, but not.
And you figured it out.
Not having a fan is because they want to be able to catch the people who are smoking? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, if you run the shower and use a toilet paper roll stuffed with dryer sheets, you can get around it. I've heard.
The more you know. We need that little shooting star graphic. Ding, 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 ding. The more you know. That's fantastic.
What do you always joke about me smoking? A doob with a tube?
What? So what do you? So you do? How does it work?
So when you blow out the smoke, the dryer sheets permeate through. You have like 15 dryer sheets stuffed in this little tube, so that when you blow out smoke, it doesn't smell like smoke. It smells like dryer sheets. And if you have the fan, or not
and
the
doob.
fan, but
I recommend
running,
third.
it just kind of all boils into a steam. Can't tell.
Jed, I recommend Third Planet in Lawrence. They have
Been there many times.
They have fancy new things to eradicate the scent of smoke.
Yes, they're called vaporizers. I'm aware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I think Jed's on the cutting edge of that.
I know, but he sounded like he was using a Rube Goldberg version of said implement. Not that I live in that world anymore, but
No.
I know people who do.
Yeah. All right, we'll take a break. Danny Klinkskill is with us. Little Danny Unleashed, brought to you by our friends. Yeah, that was Unleashed.
Yeah.
Brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. You can find them online at eastonroofing.com.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is "Where Integrity Matters." Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made, are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
Before the Nationals, who was the last team to win the first two games of an LCS on the road? Jason Stark talked about those teams being 12-0 since '85, since they expanded to 7 games.
An LCS?
LCS. No team that's
Royals.
won. There you go. Royals in 2014.
I didn't even hear the question. But I'm going to guess the Royals.
I was there.
Last team to
saw
win
it.
the first two games of the LCS on the road.
Soren was at one of the games.
Before the
Baltimore,
before the
yeah.
Nationals.
Yeah.
I was at game 1. We were terrified. My buddy stayed for game 2. There were several buddies that were there. But Smitty and his son stayed. Me and Archie bailed, and we were terrified we were going to get rained out on game 1 and have flown to Baltimore for nothing. But fortunately, they played in a drizzle.
They did.
They
Game
won an
1
extra.
was the night of late night, and my friend claims to be a Royals fan, went to late night and didn't watch, instead of watching game 1 of the LCS.
I'm just not even going to go there.
I said, I will not harangue. People can make their choice.
Right.
Whatever it is, I may not agree with
I don't understand it.
I don't get it at all, but I am thoroughly blown away with going to watch a fake practice.
Like LCS,
I mean,
the first LCS game in 29
You know,
years.
they scrimmaged the other night for 12 minutes. I mean, whatever. Hey, especially after I went through cancer. That was, people asked, was that a life change? No, it was mostly just a pain.
Late night's the life changer?
Mostly just a pain in the ass. But one thing I did come out on the other side and say was, you know what, God bless you if you want to do something like that I can't understand.
Yeah.
It's your life.
Oh, I agree.
You know, if that's gonna put a bigger
You
smile on
wandered
your
around
face,
Montana.
Bertrand Russell said,
No, I think it was all just a scam to write a book and make money. But, whatever.
one of my favorite lines is by getting
made it to Montana.
Bertrand Russell says, "Time you enjoyed wasting is not wasted time." So to me, that's a pretty good overarching theme.
Is that the porn thing with you?
No.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I've kind of, I've got a much, let's put it this way, I've got a much better attitude. Some things still make me shake my head. I'll say this. I went to the Chiefs game as a fan a week ago Sunday, and I hadn't been to a Chiefs game as a fan in forever. I mean, forever. Got to sit in the suite. It was very nice. But when I was walking in and the whole process of doing it, I'm like, boy, this is work. I mean, this is a day, man. I mean, God bless you. I mean,
there's a reason why they're hurting for tickets. I mean, I listen.
And I had really good parking. We came in at a time that
that's
kind of
that's irrelevant.
Imagine
it was
parking
kind of
in
a miracle.
L
It was kind of a miracle. We must have timed it out in some miracle way that we were right. We weren't super late, which is what some people. I mean,
well, the key that what most
real
people tell me
early
is
or real
rolling at
late.
11:30.
Right, and we didn't do that. It was a night game. We were there probably an hour before the game. I thought that was going to be the most disastrous time, and it really wasn't so bad.
I have not experienced the massive problems getting in, but
and then my wife.
But I generally go pretty early, so
my wife didn't have staying power, so we left at the half. So we didn't have to deal with the. But I'm thinking to myself, going out would be a humdinger.
I think
a humdinger, man.
I think the NFL has to, and I think the Chiefs have to. Nobody talks about the Chiefs downtown, and there's no reason to unless they get mass transit. And I know they're like, whoa, you're not going to tailgate. I mean, you need your car. I know, but not. It's always one guy who's Captain Tailgate Warrior who brings everything. So let's go with that guy, and then I'll jump on the train and see you there.
Right.
I mean,
Yes.
I do think that the mass transit's part of what makes the Jets and Giants. I know how many people they've got and everything, but I mean, it's just.
Although they have a pretty big parking lot environment there.
They do. And the biggest thing is the massive amount of people that they've got to draw from. They should have like 4 more NFL franchises to make it what it is,
right.
Compared to the Chiefs draw. But
and then they'd have 4 chances to have quality football.
But it's death by 1,000 cuts, but they don't want to turn the corner on any of the cuts.
Right. It driving in, the thing that is remarkable to you is the people who are parked like, I don't know, a mile. They're within the confines of the actual. But those are the people who used
to get out.
And those were the people who
they're Clark Griswolding it.
Yeah.
Those are the people who, when the discussion about the downtown baseball stadium came up, they say, well, what are we going to do about parking? And I'm like, well, there's garages down there. People find a way. It's downtown. People have figured that out for the Sprint Center, but they're, that's 5 city blocks away. I'm like, how many city blocks are you away at Arrowhead?
Have you ever seen?
I mean, you can see the stadium,
and at least it's straight. You got to climb over hills and go through, ramps and stairs,
a creek, and
yes.
one area. People don't realize this, but an overlay of the footprint of Truman Sports Complex is bigger than the downtown loop.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Now, the stadiums are mostly centrally located, although to the south, and they stretch out more to the south. I mean, obviously, there's not much to the north and everything.
Right.
So, I mean, spare me on that one.
I know.
Are they ever going to stop anyone? Seth Kaiser's got a great 3rd and 1 video where he shows the hole that is being run through. And I would say
there were 10 of those the other day.
It's upwards of, as he goes through the hole, 5 yards, 6 yards wide.
I tweeted out the other day that there's play after play where these look like a high school mismatch game in the run game. The holes are so big. I don't quite understand it. It's a little bit.
I got to be honest with you.
mind-boggling.
I'm starting to think that there are some guys, I'm not going to name names yet, that are just on both sides of the ball, blank and stupid. I mean, there's getting trucked, right? I mean, listen, Nelson. That's
But
the
I
kid.
think the big, I think a big
Nelson
holes-
comes at you
Nelson.
from the side, and you're not squared up on him. That guy's just a freak. The left guard for the Colts, he's a freak. He cleared out Noddy, and if you're not ready, and now part of that is the scheme of being ready for the guy to come pull down. But there are also times guys are just jumping out of the way. They're like going. It's like your gap. That can't be your gap responsibility. And at what point does do you start calling some of these people out to shame them into doing it right? I mean, I'm looking at this one, and I'm like, where are you going? There's the Jason Anderson had it today with the offensive line, where he had it, and I talked about it with Will Shields.
Yeah, I heard that.
Where, you leave the tight end on Marcellus or Whitney Mercilus.
Whitney Mercilus.
I always want to call him Marcellus Wiley. Whitney Mercilus.
What happened to him
on the
by the way?
backside.
Did he go to Fox or something and disappear?
Marcellus Wiley?
Yeah, he
yes,
used to be-
he did. Yeah, he did.
That's always a good
He's
guess.
on with Whitlock on that show.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Anyway, they leave Blake Bell on the backside, and what Will said, and he didn't know the play I was talking about. He's like, well, your tackle kind of puts a hand down to help line up the defensive lineman in front of the guard, and then you get back out to help. Well, Cam Irving doesn't go back out. I mean, Cam Irving appeared to be trying to do that on Justin Houston on the 4th and 1 run, which I think was going to get stuffed anyway by what was going to happen on the inside, even if Houston didn't knock it down for a 2-yard loss. Didn't look like they were going to get it done up front anyway.
Right.
But that's the concerning part for me, big picture, is what are the Chiefs' needs? Center, left guard, running back. I think they're fine on wideout. If they resign DeMarcus Robinson, then I think you go Hill, Robinson, Pringle, and then you got to find your fourth. But that's where you are. Nobody's 5 deep with it. Then you go to the defensive side of the ball, and I go everybody but Matthew, and that might be generous. Thornhill, I think, is going to grow into the role. Chris Jones, if you keep him. Frank Clark, he's not
Going
looking like a $100 million football player, but he is a competent defensive end. He might be a 7.5 sack defensive end without a bunch of help, but he's a competent guy. He's what you were hoping Alex Okafor was going to be. But then the rest of it, I mean, and the corners, if they're your 2, 3, 4, I actually think the corners are a little better than they're given credit for. And I think Spagnuolo deserves some credit that the pass defense hasn't been awful.
Yeah, especially because since they've had no pass rush whatsoever.
Right.
Now,
And
a lot
so,
of times the ball's coming out early, but there were several plays the other day where Deshaun Watson was like, he could have had a snack back
looking,
there.
Oh, God, I know.
Looking.
Yeah, I know. And so, like, my concern is that they're like, of their starting 20, of the 30 deep you go on each side of the ball, they need about 12.
Well, the thing is,
Center, left guard.
I think they need their very best players to be better. You mentioned Frank Clark, but how in the hell are they just running rampant on you when Frank Clark and Chris Jones are 2 of the 4 men who are manning the defensive line?
Jones wasn't last week, and Clark has
he
actually
wasn't.
graded well against the run.
But
He's not getting to the quarterback.
How?
He makes plays. I mean, they're there. It gets lost because then they go back to going. He only has like 2 plays to make. And they're like, okay, that's right. This guy will set the edge. So screw it. Why are we messing around here? Just run straight up the middle because there are 10-foot wide gaps.
I know. But they were there when Chris Jones was there. That's what I don't understand. I mean, I think Chris Jones, right, he's a good football player, but I think he's more of a highlight reel football player now. Maybe they need what they could use? A down-to-down dirty tackle. A guy who might not make might not get, what did Chris Jones have last year? 12.5, 13 sacks?
No,
whatever.
15.5.
15 or whatever it was, a bunch. Maybe not somebody who does that, just somebody who down after down does their stinking job.
Well, they need a Kyle Williams.
Right.
There you go.
Now, retired from the Bills. I mean, Kyle Williams never posted a big sack number, but he wasn't being moved.
Right.
And they don't have that guy.
Who's the big...
Derek Notty's supposed to be that guy. He's not. He's the very movable force or object, very movable
clearly
object.
Movable objects there because they're getting moved every time, and that's my concern. Third, I mean, Philip Lindsay's sitting there waiting on them. How many
Now,
is
the
he gonna-
Broncos O-line leaves something to be desired, but
Well, it doesn't seem to matter. I mean,
That's true.
The
That's
Colts were
true.
25th in rushing heading into the game.
Yeah, as I said,
the Colts, and I don't know why, because the Colts have the personnel.
Yeah, they do have the
Marlon Mack is a real back. Even their third down back guy is good, but their offensive line is tremendous. And by the way, and I will say this, I can't speak to the Lions. Who the hell was before the Lions? Who got them for 180 before the Lions?
Ravens.
Okay. The Ravens run the ball,
Yeah.
and they present a dual threat challenge, and that is something that
problem
Spagnuolo brought up, that and Jacoby Brissett is not Lamar Jackson, but he will run, and so you got to account for him. Deshaun Watson definitely will run, so you got to account for him. So 3 of those 4 teams are coming at you with the quarterback's a threat, which is a big challenge, but
Here goes Joe Flacco for 42 yards rushing.
right.
Right.
That shouldn't be there. And the other thing is, so O-line wise, we know the Colts line's great, and the Texans have 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and Zach Fulton I think is a pretty good player, and they paid him good money.
Right.
And that's their O-line, and it's really good, and they destroyed people. So maybe we'll see them have a big day against a lesser offensive line.
Maybe. I think, however, that teams will have been, and you're right, these are some of the better running
Again,
teams
maybe
in the-
not predicting,
Right,
not guaranteeing,
right.
hoping.
But other teams know now that if they weren't convicted before, that this is the way to beat the Chiefs, okay?
Yeah, it's been laid out there.
It's been laid out there. Maybe you won't do it, but if you try the other way, you're doomed, okay?
Although I will say this, the Texans were throwing the ball a lot more for 3 quarters than people realize, as were the Colts. Texans even more. I mean, their big quarter,
But-
they had 16 passes and 11 runs.
Right.
They had-
However,
I think
the
it
other
was-
thing teams are doing, and Stan Weber's been harping on this for weeks on our podcast, they're throwing extremely short passes a lot of the time.
They crushed them in the flat.
I mean,
Yes.
that
Sunday.
rollout play to the tight end was like from me to you. I mean, I could have made these little passes, and I didn't even know why they didn't run it more. He was good for 8 yards every one of them. I think they ran it 3 times. He was all by himself. He rumbled in there near a first down, and so they're doing a lot of that too. But then again, when they do a great straight drop back, there's no pressure either. The problems are myriad. It's almost astounding that I was on board. What did I say? I said I'd be shocked if they lost 3 games. And all of a sudden, this prescription has come up. It looks like a different football team. And a big part of football is confidence. There's no question about that. And maybe the Chiefs were just the team that was ready. You talked about Aaron Rodgers earlier, that he wasn't ready to play football. Maybe the Chiefs were more ready to play football than the other teams early on. That's why they
Right,
looked
so they're not
great.
as good as they looked early on.
Right.
The other teams just weren't ready.
The
That's
teams
possible.
are catching up. I mean, we've seen, the Cowboys came out like a house of fire, and now they've lost 3 games in a row and look god-awful against the Giants. I don't know. Maybe it's just the National Football League. Certainly it's the injuries. I mean, but every team, every game, what do we hear from the Colts secondary's banged up.
Yeah.
Linebacker core for
They
the
lost 2
Cowboys
guys
is
in that
destroyed.
Colts-
Offensive line is in a disarray for
The
every team.
The Colt game, they didn't have two safeties. Their best defensive player, and Darius Leonard, the linebacker. The DN went down in the game with a broken leg. No, I mean,
Another defensive back went down in the game.
you gotta
they
find a
lost
way
their
to
best.
win.
Houston lost their best corner during the game
I-
and a linebacker.
I heard Jason today on the Zone, and I thought he was making a good point about, listen, everyone's talking about before and after the ankle injury. There's a write-up. Who gave me this?
Yeah, he was 9 for 19.
But
they're
this
different.
is who was this? Bill Barnwell. Bill Barnwell had a thing out. He basically, I think where this came from was the 3 games that he has come up limping mid-game. Appeared to be okay to start and then come up. And he took the total, so that's the Jaguar game, that's the Colt game, and that's the Texan game. And he took not just this last game, right, which Jason did a good job of pointing out. Listen, if you don't get the call, if you get the call, which I'm sorry, it's wrong. The tackling of Travis Kelce is wrong.
Wrong call.
Figure out whatever blanking reason why and rewrite the record, but that is crap. Otherwise, you can just go maul everybody and just hope the quarterback doesn't throw the ball to him.
Well, then maybe they're just sick of calling defensive holding
Oh,
penalties.
it's the
because they are. I mean, I can talk about this issue.
Didn't they just re-up the NFLPA? Will you look at that? I think they just announced a new deal with them, and they should blow it up and fire them all and just bring on college refs, because the scab refs were no worse. They were no worse, and these guys suck, and they're not overturning any pass interference calls because they're pissed that the committee put it in there. Oh, it's got to be egregious. Well, tackling a guy is as much as it gets, so they're not overturning any of that.
September
the NFL
28th,
reffing has sucked. It still sucks. And whatever refs live in town, there's always a couple of NFL refs that live in town here. Oh, well, you ought to talk to so-and-so. So fine, I'll talk to him, and I'll tell him to his face, you guys suck.
Well, I will also say this, and nobody wants to hear this, but there are bad calls, and there's bad refereeing. Last night
That's not why the Chiefs lost. I want to be clear.
And I'm not saying that either. What I'm getting at is the fact that most of the time when they show the replay, like on the Chiefs' defensive holdings, they're grappling them.
Not all the time. They had
most
a couple
of the
of
time.
them.
I'm like, oh, good Lord.
There are some where it's like,
that's
holding.
Are they teaching you this?
No, but in games where the Chiefs receivers seemingly get mauled, and I'm a Chiefs fan, so take it with a grain of salt. I'm sure I see it somewhat red and gold. But where they seem to be mauled, there are times where it's like, Claiborne got called for one, and it's like, even Dan Fouts is like, well, I don't know what they're calling there. I mean, there's no consistency whatsoever to it. That's the most frustrating part. But anyway, so these 3 games, pre-injury 69%, post-injury 57%. I don't know how many snaps it is, so I'm not going to worry about the yards. But it's 5 touchdowns, no interceptions to 2 and 1. It's 12 yards per attempt to 6. Passer rating 141 to 80. All right, and Jason's point was a good one. If they get those couple of plays that could have gone their way, those stats look a little bit different. I don't know that.
That's a big sample size there, though.
It is. That's 3 games. That's 3 different games. And I definitely think it's affecting. I definitely think that they win one of the 2 that they've lost if he doesn't have the ankle injury. I think he runs around and makes one of those magic Mahomes plays.
I don't disagree with that.
He did it to take the lead against the Colts, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that was a magic Mahomes play. Those were no longer on the board. So, that's part. But building your football team around he's going to save us is a terrible idea.
And also, he's a gutty guy. That ankle's probably not going to be right the rest of this season. So if you're thinking about this season, you'd have to get awfully fortunate to not get it rolled on, stepped on, whatever during the course of these games, and that he would go 5 games clean. And I think the talk about resting him is also, if you'd won the 2 games and they were 6-0, I might listen to it. But certainly not now.
No.
They need him to win games, and it clearly is affecting the way he's throwing. And I don't think there's any doubt about that. Forget the mobility part. I think he's just trying to not, really stomp into that left ankle. And really, and it's mechanics.
I agree.
And he can still throw well without great mechanics, but he's still going to throw better with good mechanics.
Yes, I agree. Danny Clinkscale's with us. He's brought to you by Easton Roofing. Proud sponsor of Danny Unleashed is our friends at Easton Roofing, also a proud sponsor of DannyClinkscale.com, where you can see what are you highlighting right now, Danny?
Well, yeah, we always do our Monday Danny and Stan's Football Weekend podcast. Curtis, you'll like this. I am writing a blog for Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday tomorrow.
Yeah?
About food.
Oh, so there it is. You're a fat ass, I think you just said, Curtis.
EastonRoofing.com. Drumming.
Food preferences. And because people obviously look at me as a quirky food person.
You are?
Right.
I think you.
So
quirky,
I think I'm
quirky.
So what are you writing on? Nuts and figs?
I'm writing on how I once wasn't quirky, what is universally thought to be bad food, but mostly it was about the fact that, just like I said earlier, food is such a personal thing. It's like music. People can listen to the same thing, like it, hate it. They can eat the same thing, like it, hate it. That's kind of what it's about.
What is the best steak knife for cheese?
913-257-5426 to reach Easton Roofing. EastonRoofing.com. Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker of Easton Roofing. And Joe, oftentimes people will wait to replace their roof until there is a weather event. What should they know about that?
Well, Danny, the important thing to remember is if you're going to turn in a claim to your insurance company, you want to make sure that you actually have damage on your home. If you turn in a claim to your insurance company and they send an insurance adjuster out, it's going to be a claim whether they give you $1 or $10,000. So it's important to make sure that you actually have damage on your home before you turn that claim in. And all you have to do is give us a call. We'll come out, take a look, and make sure there's real damage, and we'll tell you if there's not. Maybe it's just a small repair and it's not worth a claim. So it's always smart to get somebody you trust to make sure there's damage before you turn in a claim.
Quality advice and guidance from Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
Danny Unleashed, Danny Klinkskill with us, brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing, eastonroofing.com. Commercial, residential, repairs. Yep, they do it. PayPal, credit cards accepted. Find them online at eastonroofing.com. All right, Danny, so what do you think? What do you expect against the Broncos?
I expect a dog fight. I think this is going to be tough to win. Short week. Mahomes can't be much better, if at all, physically. I think Denver realizes they're going to have to run the ball. They've played a good schedule. They're probably a little better than we think. They just pitched a shutout. They only gave up 13 the game before. I expect a tough game. The Chiefs are better. You don't have a mobile quarterback. So I do expect them to be able to patch together a win, but I don't think anybody's going to come out of it going, hey, problem solved. Give me a pina colada. I mean, I think it's going to be kind of ugly. Maybe they get a turnover or two. They created 3, and they were kind of created. I talked about creating turnovers and being given turnovers a couple of weeks ago. Maybe some of that. Broncos make some mistakes, but 23-20.
So what are you feeling for their final record?
I think this is sort of a momentum deal. If they lose this game on Thursday, which I think is quite losable, and I think 10-6 is in play. But they can rebuild momentum. There's no question about that. You have 10 days here where you're playing 2 primetime football games. They could be a 4-4 football team, or they could be 6-2 and be second in the power rankings in the NFL. So I don't have a feel for it. How can you have a feel for the Chiefs right now?
I would agree.
I think it's extremely difficult.
Yeah, they need to get healthy is one of the things that needs to happen before you can really get a feel for it. That's right.
And we've learned through the years that listening to anything the Chiefs say about injuries is just a fool's errand, a complete and utter fool's errand. Guys who are week to week, never plays again. Well, Eric Berry played one football game ever the rest of his life. Once he said he was week to week. Now I think he lost.
Who's the other guy that
was
like that?
Well, Houston was like that.
All right, and now who else? Because I will bring up, I think that's part of the reason why they're not here.
Probably, yeah. And Barry may have just completely lost his desire to play football because he's not playing.
I hear he did.
But I think that, hey, I'm not even pinning this just on the Chiefs. Listening to NFL football teams talk about injuries is foolish.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
At the Broncos, home for the Packers, home for the Vikings.
Yeah, that's a tough stretch. Eases up a little bit after that, but...
At the Titans, home for the Chargers, home for the Raiders. At the Pats, Raiders are looking better. Chargers are looking worse.
Titans are
look
in free
terrible after looking pretty good early on. At the Pats, we know what that is. And then Broncos at home, at the Bears, and then the Chargers.
Well, how we
home.
feel about the schedule now? It looks like a murderer's row because they're not playing well.
November 18th is actually in Mexico. It's neutral with the Chargers.
Right. It looks like murderer's row right now because of the way the Chiefs are playing. You know, if you said that after week 3, you'd be like, oh, win.
I mean, 2 with the Broncos, 2 with the Chargers. Their record says mediocre on both those teams. I don't think the Bears are that good because I don't think, they got the
score
quarterback.
A bunch on you.
I think the Titans have got problems. The good teams that are left on the schedule are the Packers, the ones that are good. I'm not saying that no one else can beat them. But the good teams are the Packers, are the Vikings, and are the Patriots.
And I think the Bears' defense is good enough that I think you still have to call them a good football team.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I won't argue with that.
Because you just
so if you go 2-2,
aren't going to score that much against them.
If you go 2-2 in those,
you're already
you're
up
6-4.
Yeah, you're already up to 4 losses.
So what do you do in the other 6?
That's why I said 10-6 is in play. If you don't get healthier and you don't start playing a little better with the guys who are healthy.
Did Eric Fisher, will he finally get some appreciation from some people around here?
I think any player who's out and you can glaringly see that they are missed deserves a little credit, a little nod. Because their offensive line was not much of an issue. Although they weren't great early on either. Patrick Mahomes has been doing a lot of fancy dancing back there in the
I
pocket.
think part of that's because he sends 5 guys out.
Right, that's true.
And they send a lot of guys deep.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that offensive line, people are like, well, the offensive line, he had to scramble out of there. Well, yes, because everybody's running a 20-yard route, and there's 5 guys in the pattern. They help with no one. And they're still trying to do that, and they're getting their quarterback killed.
Yeah,
although they had, as we mentioned, 2 guys in helping when he got hurt against the Texans.
Right, and they just goofed up. There's too much of that. I think they got a little fat and happy at 3-0. I do. And unfortunately, it took 2 games to maybe be a wake-up call to them.
Or
now maybe you're just not that good.
That's right. That's the scary part.
Yep.
That's the scary part.
No doubt.
DannyKlingscale.com. It's Danny Unleashed. He joins us every week here in the program. Danny, we'll talk to you next week, buddy.
Sounds great.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.